Modern dating feels more like a war zone than a breeding place for love. We have men pointing fingers at women for using Instagram, OnlyFans, for sleeping around, having a high body count. All these things really bringing your judgment to the surface and saying, see, we are not the problem. Women pointing their fingers back saying you're either too masculine and it's toxic, or you're weak and you're kind and you will get used. I'm gonna tell you the painful truth. It's either gonna piss you off or you're gonna resonate with it. That is the case because you know that it is true. And it is your response to this very video that will determine whether you stay in this modern dating shitstorm, unable to even see the good women that are still there, or that you detach from the whole free-for-all and create a new reality. And you get to have a loving relationship with a devoted woman. If you're done watching all the content that makes you feel only more resentful every time you look at it, makes you feel like there's less and less hope and more borders to adhere to in your behavior, because if you shed a tear or you're vulnerable with a woman, she's out the door. If you're simply done adhering to all these projections from men that are hurt, and you want to choose your own path with an open heart, then this might be a very important video for you. A nude picture or bikini picture on Instagram gets 10,000 likes, 12 sponsorships. A picture of a woman cooking gets 2 likes, 0 sponsorships, and 1 nude DM from her own mother. OnlyFans would make you rich overnight, while learning how to raise children would earn you 0. So, systems are the problem, not people. And if we have a closer look at these systems, how does this market actually function? If women are the supply, very obviously, then men are the demand. And supply follows the demand. So let's say how the average guy, potentially including you, is liking, following, donating, subscribing to these women on Instagram or OnlyFans or whatever the case may be, you are fueling the demand and creating the reward for this behavior. We as men, we are upholding the demand and we are therefore attracting the supply. If we are saying that women should stop using these systems, then the supply would go down, making it only more valuable to share these bikini pictures and OnlyFans channels. They would make only more money because we as the demand are staying up there. Just like in every single situation in life, men create the narrative, men lead the way. So to paint you a picture, the average guy listening and agreeing to this red pill content is following women that he doesn't know, is liking their pictures, is watching porn, is using Tinder, is doing all this shit to fuel the machine, and is then pointing his fingers to women for using the systems. And in the meantime, we are just agreeing, when we look at a podcast where there's 6 women invited who are an absolute disgrace, to call them average women, they are being used to still prove the points. Men should not blame, judge, or even look in the direction of women's decision making if we are creating the very reward for posting that bikini picture, for making an OnlyFans. Stop blaming the other genders. Stop blaming other men even, for that matter. Start blaming the actual problem, the root cause, the systems. The systems that are allowing for all this shit to happen. In the 50s and 60s and 70s. Most likely when your parents met. The reason that there was a complete different culture, what do you think it has to do with? Not because men and women for some magical reason had crazy values, all of them, but because the culture, because these systems were not in place yet, allowing this degeneracy to happen. So we're pointing at each other saying, who's the fault? Who should change first? While it is these systems that is creating all the problems. So knowing that we are the demand, that men are creating the very problem that they're now complaining about, and if you are a rational human being, you're listening to this and you understand from this point, I should not judge women for using these systems. Just like I should not judge men for creating the demand. Men and women here in both systems are simply making decisions that they think are the best decisions. Women following the rewards and the agency and the leverage, and men simply following their dick. Looking at these bikini pictures thinking, oh, that's nice, like. Both are not to blame. It is the system that's connecting the two. Because of course it is not realistic to say, hey, man, from this moment, we are gonna stop follow, we are gonna unfollow, unlike, unsubscribe, all this shit. Demand would go to zero and women would stop behaving this way because there's no point anymore, because we are not creating the narrative anymore. And then some other meta and system would be created. But of course that's not realistic to say. So of course you can also not blame men for being fucking wired to be absolutely consumed and interested by this feminine beauty. So when it's out there, you cannot expect the average man to be absolutely detached to that and to say, let's unfollow, unlike, and doing all this shit. So there's nothing wrong being a man and liking, following, subscribing, doing all this shit if you don't judge women for using the systems. It is absolutely fine to be a woman using all these systems, then also accept the consequences that come with using these systems. And definitely don't point at men for not choosing you anymore. So people are just choosing their own ways. And when the standard, the average, is a degenerate path and lacks values, then that creates the opportunity for women and for men to say, in the face of all this, I'm gonna choose to take responsibility. It creates the opportunity for even stronger values. As long as you are watching porn, using Tinder, liking, following, subscribing, donating, choosing the women that are sleeping around and validating them. If you're making these decisions as a man, you have no ground to judge or say anything. It is absolutely fine doing these things, but at the bare minimum, shut up about modern dating or about female nature or whatever. If you're different, however, and you see that these systems are the problem and you want to choose a more loving path and create a reality where you can actually see the women that have these stronger values, then you have to begin with detaching from the system. You cannot play the game that creates the problem. Then stop watching these thirst traps on Instagram, unfollow all women that you don't know, stop liking, following, donating, subscribing, stop watching porn, using Tinder, and stop selecting the women that are choosing to sleep around and that are choosing to use OnlyFans and so on. Simply don't choose the women that don't align with your new values. Okay, great. Now you are taking responsibility. You are not part of the problem anymore. And now you have all grounds to say, my preference is a woman who also doesn't play part in these systems. Even better, you will start actually encountering and attracting these more high value women that have stronger values in the face of all this degeneracy. You will actually start encountering them in your life, but not before you have detached to the system. A big part of this is also not watching the red pill content and short, because I know a lot of guys are being spammed with this because you know that it will make you more resentful and it only paints the picture of this very hurt space of men that choose to live in a very limited and closed way in love and relationships. Take your responsibility. Stop playing in the systems and point your finger at the systems rather than the people. Build your values first before you choose a woman who, in the face of all these options and temptations, stick to herself. And there's enough of these women, but you will not even see them until you start doing better. And I know this message is not gonna appeal to most men, but for the ones that do, I applaud you. Subscribe to the channel. Let's create a community of those men and let's start detaching to all the noise that is coming from the other side. Really focus on our own growth, on our own territories. And for now, that's it, man. See you in the next one.